Welcome back to another episode with PixumWeb. In today's episode, we're going to go over how to install iThemes Security, which is a very popular security plugin for the WordPress platform. So in order to install this plugin, you would just navigate to the back end of your website and you would go to the plugins link in your admin sidebar menu. If you hover over it, you can click add new from here, or if you want to, you could just click on the plugins link. And from here, you can add new or add new. So we're just going to click add new. And here we're just going to type in iThemes in the search field. And then the first option should be iThemes Security, formerly Better WP Security. As you can see, it's active on 600,000 plus WordPress installations. Is very popular, has 4.5 stars with over 3,360 reviews, has been updated recently, and is compatible with our version of WordPress. You can check out more details, and you can see more information about the various features that the plugin has to offer, and some pro features if you decide to purchase the pro solution from iThemes. You can see how to properly install it, some screenshots, the changelog to see what they changed for the plugin in the most recent update, the FAQ, the various facts, and the reviews. So if you're ready to install it, just click the install now. Once you do so, it will unpack the plugin, and then you can activate the plugin. Once you activate it, you're going to get a couple of notifications. One of them says to get an API key by activating the iThemes brute force network protection. You can get a free API key, so that's something we highly recommend. And you can also secure your site now by just clicking on this. But we're going to do everything from the security link over here. So iThemes, once you activate it, they create a security link in your admin sidebar in the dashboard. Over here, if you just hover over it, you see your various link options, or you can just click on the actual security link, and the first time you do so, it'll pop up this notification. You can either dismiss it, or you can go step by step. First thing you should always do, whether you're installing a new plugin or a new theme, or updating or upgrading your website, you should always take a backup of the database and the files. It's extremely important to do so. Code can conflict at some point in time that might cause an issue, and it's always a good advice to have a backup. So you should definitely take a backup. If you don't have another backup plugin or backup regimen that you follow, you could always just click backup here. If you click make a backup in this button, it'll take a backup of your database and stuff, and it'll email it to you, and or it'll upload it to your uploads folder. And then the next option is allow file updates. So in order to protect your site, some of the things it does is it edits the wp-config.php file and the htaccess file. So this is a good option to select. Another thing is secure your site. Use the button below to enable default settings. This feature will enable all settings that cannot conflict with other plugins or themes. So this is relatively safe to do, and I highly recommend it. And you could also help them improve the plugin by sending them anonymous data about the different features that you use. So that's something you could do as well. I'm just going to click on this one right now, secure your site. So it's going to put in the default settings, and then I'm going to click on allow file updates. I don't need to make a backup because this is done in my local environment, and I reset the database often, and I start from scratch whenever I'm doing something new for the tutorials purposes. So, and there's no need to help them improve the plugin via this local environment, since again, I'm deleting everything once I'm done with the tutorial. So once you click the buttons that you're going to choose, just click dismiss, and now you're brought to the security dashboard. So in the dashboard, it can say you have the option don't lock yourself out. So pretty much what you can do here, just read up on this. This will temporarily whitelist your IP address. It'll get the IP address that you are currently at, and it'll temporarily whitelist it for 24 hours. So even if you have it configured, the brute force settings to after every 2 tries that a person is locked out based on IP address, even if you mess up on the 3rd try, you'll be okay because your IP will be whitelisted. So that's pretty straightforward. They do have a getting started, watch the walkthrough video. Website security is a complicated subject, but we have experts that can help. If you want them to configure it for you, they can do that as well. They do give you some recommendations. High priority. These are items that should be secured immediately. Your site is not performing any scheduled database backups. So you can click on the fix it, and it'll make any database backups that you that are recommended to do. So that's something that you should definitely do. A medium priority. These are items that should be secured if possible. However, they are not critical to the overall security of your site. So these are just some of the options that you should go through. Your website is not protected against bots looking for known vulnerabilities. Consider turning on 404 protection. So you can click on fix it. So once you do that, it'll take you to this section right here, and you just click on fix. You just check that box, and then you can determine how long you want to remember the 404 error, check period, the threshold, the whitelist and stuff like that. So once you do that, you can click on save all changes. So that's fine. Let's go back to the dashboard. Again, we'll go down, and then it says a user with ID 1 still exists. So this is something that security experts have been recommending for a long time, just to change the user ID for the for the first person stuff. So that's an easy fix. Just fix it, and then you're going to be brought to the backend. Enable change admin user. So you can check this right here, and then change user ID 1. Okay, so save admin user. All right, so log me out. I'm going to log back in. The reason why I did that is because it resets everything. So again, that's why you want to make sure you have a backup of your database, backup of your files. That's a pretty smooth transition. It's supposed to do that. So don't get concerned if you automatically get bumped out. Because you're changing the admin ID and stuff, WordPress by default will knock you out of the session. So we'll go back to the dashboard. As you can see, that is no longer available. That ID 1 issue has been resolved. And the next one is your WordPress dashboard is available 24/7. If you don't really need to make updates 24 hours a day, you can consider doing it in away mode. That's optional. You can do that if you know you're going on vacation on a long weekend, and anyone that you're working with will be having access to the site. So you can consider doing that, where you're going to be locking out your dashboard for a certain amount of time. Your login area is partially protected from brute force attacks. We recommend you use both network and local blocking for full security. So you can just click fix it there. And what you're going to do here is you're going to put in your email address. And when you do so, it's going to get you an API key for brute force protection for the network configuration. So you can set the max login attempts per host, per user, the time period to remember, and I recommend you do this. Immediately ban a host that attempts to log in using the admin username. So you just lock them out, and so you shouldn't have admin as a username anyway. That's just a recommendation. Save all changes. Once you do so, you would end up getting a API key. Again, I'm on my local host and stuff like that, so it's not really going to work for my purposes, but for you, it'll work. So we'll go here to the dashboard again. So that would be fixed at this point, but since again I'm on my local host. Your website is not looking for changed files. Consider turning this on. So if there's a file change detected from any plugins or themes that you have downloaded from the WordPress repository, this will analyze those to see if anything's changed and looks suspicious. So that's a good one to check for. Your WordPress dashboard is using default addresses. This can make a brute force attack much easier. So you might want to change that. and then you might want to protect the various WordPress files, like your htaccess files and your WP config file. You'll want to definitely protect those. So that's important. So you can go through each of these installations recommendations and have them configured automatically just by clicking to fix it, and then it'll take you to the section that requires it. So we're going to just move on to the settings tab, and we're going to look at these individual options individually. So again, the first one we did was allow iThemes security to write to the wp-config.php and htaccess file. And then we have a message here. It's already there by default. You have been locked out due to too many invalid login attempts. Okay, so then we have enabled the blacklist repeat offender. So that's when you do the one-click install, that automatically gets checked. And then you can choose how long you want to have a lockout period for. You can choose 3,000 minutes if you want. If you want to permanently add your IP address to the whitelist, you can do so here. So that's not a bad option to choose. And then you can choose how long the database logs are kept for. You can choose to allow iThemes to track plugin usage. Again, that was an option, but for this local environment purpose, it doesn't make sense to do this. Disable file locking. Turning this option on will prevent errors related to file locking. However, it might result in operations being executed twice, so this is not recommended. You can choose to hide the security menu in the admin bar. You see it's up here. You can choose to hide that. The 404 detection, we already had set that up by clicking the one-click fix it button before. This was the away mode, where if you're going to be away for a certain amount of time, you would enable this option, and you can choose when you want to start, when you want to end, etc. So now banned users. So I recommend clicking on the default blacklist. So what this does, it enables the hackrepair.com's blacklist feature. As a getting started point, you can include the excellent blacklist developed by Jim Walker of hackrepair.com. So pretty much there's already a list of known hackers out there, or IPs that need to be blacklisted. So by clicking on this, you already add another layer of protection to your site. So that's good. And then you can enable ban users mode. So you can just follow these guidelines here. You may ban users by individual IP addresses or by IP address range. This is, one layer of security you can choose to use. You could ban the user agents if you want. And then we went here to the brute force protection. What we did here before was put in our email address, and then you'll end up getting an API key, which will enable iThemes to add another layer of protection similar to brute protect. This is a network-based brute force protection. And then you have your local brute force protection set up here as well. So here you have your max login attempts per host, and then per user. You can change those to suit your needs. Minutes to remember bad login checks, and then immediately ban a host that attempts to log in with the admin username. If you want to do a backup of the full database, you can click on this, and then you can have it emailed. You can save it locally or both. So that's recommended if you're not using another solution. Again, this is for the database itself, not for your files. So you should you should have a full backup solution set up for that. And then backups to retain, you should choose how many backups you want to retain. You don't want to leave it set to unlimited, because the problem there is, depending on your server size or your server configuration, that could take up a lot of space. So, maybe you want to keep the 3 most recent backups, 5 most recent backups, things of that nature. So you move down. If you want to enable file change detection, you can do that. It's always good to split the file scanning up, so that way it doesn't overload the resources of your system. As we scroll down, and then they'll email you whenever a file change has been detected. So it's a good feature to have. If something all of a sudden, gets changed from a plugin or theme that you're using, they use a diff checker, it's called, and they scan the original files and then the changes, and then if anything has changed, they'll notify you so you can investigate it further. You can hide the login page. So the hide login area hides the login page, wp-login.php, and admin and login, making it harder to find by automatic attacks and making it easier for users unfamiliar with WordPress platform. So you can choose that if you want. Malware scanning. So this one now, this is a recent addition. This malware scan is powered by Security Site Check. It checks for known malware, blacklisting status, website errors, and out-of-date software. Although the security team does its best to provide the best results, 100% accuracy is not realistic and is not guaranteed. So that's just a disclosure. Obviously, something can always go wrong. So that's why they have that. So you can scan your home page for malware. And then for SSL. So this is if you have SSL enabled, then you can force SSL on the front end and for the dashboard. So you can just choose to have it for the whole site or per content, and you can choose it for the dashboard as well. It's good to have SSL. It gives you another layer of security. It does come at a cost with some web hosts. Some will include it into their ultimate package. You'll have SSL. So if you do have it, then you can check that option and enable that. So now the strong passwords. So who should this be put into effect for? I say it should be put into everyone from a contributor on up. And that's just me being, very cautious. Obviously, subscribers really cannot do much on their, when they subscribe to your site. They can only update their profile. A contributor can add content, but they cannot publish it. So, the debate is, should you do it at this level or should you start at the author level? Definitely by the author level, you should set it up, because at this point, the person is able to add a blog post to your website and have it published. So, now they're getting a little bit more permissions to do things. Definitely an editor and, of course, an administrator who has the ultimate of capabilities when it comes to the website. So you can choose contributor or author for this section. And then you can choose to protect the system files. I recommend doing this, so that'll protect the HC access files, the install.php, the config files, etc. You can prevent directory browsing. So directory browsing is where a person is starting to try to navigate the various directories of your installation. So you definitely want to prevent that from happening. A lot of ways that you can do that is by choosing plugins and themes that already have an index file in the directories. So that way, if anything, they'll get a blank screen. But if it doesn't have an index file, then this will be beneficial. So you can also, the request methods, filter out hits with the trace, delete, or track methods. You can check on that one. And then this one's good to check also. Filter suspicious query strings in the URL. So a lot of the ways that hackers try to get in is that they'll start messing around with the URL string. And by putting in various parameters in there that might return results that you don't necessarily want them to have. So that's pretty good to use. And then you could choose this as well. And then you could also, I recommend clicking on this. Now mind you want to play around with these settings, because as it gets more advanced, then I believe they have a disclosure here. Remember, some of these settings might conflict with other plugins or themes, so test your site after enabling each setting. So you might want to do them one at a time, just to make sure that you're not running into a conflict with some form of functionality that your website might need. So you could also click on the remove file writing permissions, so that will protect you as well, and disable the PHP uploads. So this is, we pretty much checked every option in this section. Of course, make sure to check your site, then you won't have any conflicts with that. And then some more tweaks over here. It's really good to enable some of these. Reduce comment spam. Spam is huge on the internet, and you want to minimize that as much as possible. In a previous tutorial, I went over the file editor, and to disable that, they do give you the option here to disable the file editor. The only issue is if someone does manage to get into your website dashboard, then they could always just go into this setting here and uncheck that. So, I mean, it is a good layer to put on, so to disable the file editor from this point, but that could always be undone from this point as well. So the best way to do it is to actually manually edit your WP config file, etc. You can choose the XML RPC to disable it only for trackbacks and pingbacks. I find that has the least potential for issues, so that's a good option to choose. And then always make sure you're running a safe version of jQuery. You could disable the login error messages and force users to choose a unique nickname. And then, if an author's page has count as 0, this disables the user's author's page. So I'm just going to uncheck that because I didn't put any posts here or whatever. So save all changes, and now it's been done. So we're going to dismiss this one. You shouldn't have this one if you've already set that up and stuff. So that is how to set up the settings section of it. They do have an advanced section also, so you can check some of these as well. So you can change the WordPress salts. The salts are the added tokens that they put. They're random, they're unpredictable, and they're put into the password, so it makes it even harder for someone to get into your site. You can change the salts here. You can change the content directory. Now, they give you some warnings here because this is a very advanced feature. So this is really only best done when you are first starting your website. If you've already had your website up for a while, you might run into some issues, so it might not be recommended to do this unless you have a developer that's actually going to go in there and manually do everything for you. You should change the database prefix. By default, the prefix is WP. If you click on this, and it'll change the database prefix for you. And then see what it changed it to. So now it just gave me a new database prefix. That's just another way of protecting your site. Then backups, again, if you want to make a database backup. If you want to choose to get Backup Buddy, you can get Backup Buddy. You can look at the logs, the security logs. And then if you need help, over here. So they have free support. Get free support from the community support from WordPress.org. Or if you want to get the iThemes Security Pro, you can get the Pro features. And then has your site been hacked? Contact Security, our recommended hack repair partner, to get things back in order. So Security is one of the premier security companies that work with WordPress. They're highly knowledgeable in all aspects of online security. So you should definitely check out their solutions. And then they have the download our WordPress Security Pocket Guide. You can put your email address and you get that. So this is pretty much the setting up iThemes Security. Some of the features you would definitely want to go over. Again, when you set it up, you should just click on the default settings installation and then go manually one by one to configure it to suit your needs. iThemes Security is a very popular solution, and we highly recommend using this plugin to secure your WordPress website. Hopefully you found this tutorial of how to install iThemes Security beneficial and informative. If so, hit the thumbs up button below, and don't forget to subscribe, since we'll be providing more installation guides on how to install various plugins for your WordPress powered website. If you have any comments, leave the comments below, and I look forward to seeing you in the next episode.